truly gifted and wonderful experience. To sit with people working, there is an air of the marvelous that fills the entire room. And makes the people within it luminous. Their kindness shines through. In this room at this time, the idea of loneliness is not existent. Somehow we've managed to exchange loneliness and separation into friendship and closeness. That is the most marvelous gift that we can receive, and the most marvelous gift that we can give. I wish to take a small amount of time to read statements from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Be there with the reading, be there with yourself. Yes, be there with yourself. Be there with that wonderful part of yourself. Not all parts of ourselves are so marvelous, but there's at least one. And it's part of our obligation to find and cultivate that one part.
I think it's the last one.
The dangerous pathway?
Protects from fear. That's the one you chose.
That's good, yes. Oh, yes. When the journey of my life has reached its end, and since no relatives go with me from this world, I wander in the Bardo state alone. May the peaceful and wrathful Buddhas send out the power of their compassion and clear away the dense darkness of ignorance. When parted from beloved friends, wandering alone, my own projections, empty forms appear. May the Buddhas send out the power of their compassion, so that the bardo's terrors do not come. When the 5 luminous lights of wisdom shine fearlessly, may I recognize myself. When the forms of the peaceful and wrathful ones appear, fearless and confident, may I recognize the bardo. When I suffer through the power of evil karma, may the peaceful and wrathful Buddhas clear away suffering. When the sound of the Dharmata roars like 1,000 thunders, may it be transformed into the sound of a Mahayana teaching. When I follow my karma without refuge, may the peaceful and wrathful Buddhas be my refuge. When I suffer the karma of unconscious tendencies, may the samadhi of bliss and luminosity arise. At the moment of spontaneousness, birth, and bardo of becoming, may the false teachings of the tempters not arise. When I arrive wherever I wish, by supernatural power, may the illusory terrors of evil, karma, not arise. When savage beasts of prey are roaring, may it become the sound of Dharma, the 6 syllables. When I am chased by snow, rain, wind, and darkness, may I receive the clear, divine eyes of wisdom. May all sentient beings of the same realm in the bardo, free from jealousy, be born in a higher state. When great thirst and hunger are caused by passions, may the pain of thirst and hunger, heat and cold, not arise. When I see my future parents in union, may I see the peaceful and wrathful Buddhas with their consorts with prayer to choose my birthplace. For the good of others, may I receive so perfect a body, adorned with auspicious signs. Obtaining for myself a perfect human body, may all who see and hear me at once be liberated. May I not follow all my evil karmas, but follow and increase what merit I have. Wherever I am born, at that very place, may I meet the Yidam of this life, face to face. Knowing how to walk and talk as soon as I am born, may I attain the power of non-forgetfulness and remembrance of past lives. In all the stages of learning, high and middle and low, may I understand just by hearing, thinking, and seeing. Wherever I am born, may that land be blessed, so that all sentient beings may be happy. O peaceful and wrathful Buddhas, may I and others become like you, yourselves, just as you are, with your forms and your auspicious marks, your retinues, your long life, and your realms. Samantahabra, the peaceful and wrathful ones, infinite compassion, the power of truth of the pure Dharmata, and followers of Tantra in one-pointed meditation, may their blessings fulfill this inspiration prayer. Part of the teaching of the Bardo is that in the despair and the terror of leaving this life, we fall into the hands of those spirits that seek to remind us of the gain and pleasure of being born again. It states that the temptations that come before our eyes in the state of our own death will make us swim and spin with the longing for what we had, whatever it may have been. And if we fall into terror and we fall into fear, we will clutch for another life. That is why those who remain, the friends, the ones who loved the departed, seek to give that departed the strength to resist the urge to grasp blindly at another life, and instead take the opportunity to step into another higher realm. In that realm there is peace, there is happiness, there is contentment and compassion, and a life without the boundaries and limitations of the mortal flesh. On Monday past, a dear friend, a student, returning from his beloved skiing mountains to his home in Rome, Dr. Luigi De Carolis met his death in a fatal automobile accident. Many of us that have been here for a while remember him. Not a sickly man who death was in his immediate future, a young man, perhaps 40 or younger, healthy, robust, with a wonderful professional life, a wonderful inventive career in his field, avid skier, athlete, is with us no longer. He worked in this room. And in reading the Bardo, I wish his soul the help it may need to continue in his journey. I want him to know that he is not alone. Let's take a moment, if we may, to wish his being a deep and wondrous transformation. Again, how good to see you all here. And some of you, I don't know your names. And some of you, I remember your names. These two gentlemen?
Mike. Peter.
Michael and Peter, yes. I was expecting you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for your presence. It's a time when as much light is needed as possible. And I've forgotten your name?
Tanya.
Tanya. Hello. And sir?
Stephen.
Stephen, is this your friend?
Yes.
Hello, Stephen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, Paula. With you here, the world is a warmer place. I very well remember the first time I saw you. Very well, very clearly. it would be so easy to enter the idea of reciting the many credits of people who are here. I could thank Paula for her many, many contributions. I'm sure that I can thank many people here for their contributions. Thank you all. And what a feeling of gratitude is incurred in me that you people have chosen to come here, partake of the luxury of being with each other, and for me the honor of being in this chair with you. So many wonderful things have happened in this room over a period of years, many years. How sacred. A few days ago, a gentleman reminded me, informed me, exchanged with me I believe that's what my personal meetings are about. That perhaps the most important question we can ever ask of ourselves is, why am I here? And we may ask it again and again, and it isn't an answer maybe for years and years. Some people believe that as the human spirit is born, it enters into a place of its own choosing. It selects the parent who it will be born to. It selects the place, selects the time. Many believe that, but not all believe it. Others may believe that whatever great power we choose to call the invisible, that it is that power which sends a living creature to a certain place at a certain time. And I suppose the beauty of ideas like that is that they can never be proven in the New York Times. They remain the mysteries of life. But yet I believe that we must all ask ourselves again and again, what am I here for? What am I doing in this world, at this time, in this nation, in this body? What am I doing here? What very, very important reason do I have for being here? Perhaps that may be clearly said, what reason does my spirit have for being here? What did I come to learn? What did I come to give? What did I come to experience? And that perhaps is the most important question we can ever ask. Some may say, well, I came here to start a business or become a famous composer or write a great novel, become an international name. And the question still remains, what did your spirit come here to do? Some came to learn, some came to experience, and perhaps among the same realm of question, have I been here before? Do I come into this life with a gift? Do I come into this life carrying a burden, a debt from another life? Was I always a human? I ask myself quite often, was I someone's chihuahua? And very often little Harry says, yes, I believe you were. He has a lot to learn. Some of us carry the imperial nature of another time. And in this life, they demand, they give orders, they have the pride. They see themselves as rulers of others. That may have been in a past time. And in this turn, they may come to know what it is to serve, to ingrain the humility that man must have before others and before the invisible. So some come here to learn to bow their knee and to ask, please help me. And some come here to see that there is no longer a reason to grovel, to scrape the ground. They may have been slaves in another life, and perhaps we see the vestiges of their slavery still apparent. Maybe they've come to see that it is no longer necessary. That in this turn at bat, they can stand as free people, as equals. Yes, in this life perhaps they came to realize that they are sentient beings who have a right to exist. Some come here to learn to be brothers or sisters or parents. Am I implying then that this life, this existence, is a kind of school? Where we may come so that the spirit can learn in this life what remains for it to learn. Will this be the last life? Will this be one of many? Are some folks approaching the end of their schooling? Perhaps 2, 3, 5, 50? In that area, numbers don't mean too much. Have some come to place their arm around someone's shoulder and say, I'm going to try to help. Are we given a certain kind of longing within ourselves? Some people have come, even as early children, with the idea that they can help someone, they can cure someone, they can cure the family cat. Are we all heading towards that state in which a sense of responsibility is developed, is nurtured? In the work that many of us have pursued here, in this room, is the concept that life can be for some a life of service. And what it means to enter into a life of service. And how many will quickly say, I can't have a life of service, I don't know how to do anything, I don't know how. Or I don't have the generosity to be of service. Then we must look at the events in our life, this and past ones, that seem to clarify that yes, you can be of service. That the individual must believe that they can be of service, that they have something worthwhile that will benefit others. A life of service, where the individual can look at another while saying, it is so difficult to serve, while saying that, vow to try. And I don't believe that it's the trying that I will do something that will save the whales or change the earth or do something marvelous. And wouldn't it be great if we could? Perhaps what we can do is sit in a crowded bus and look at another person's direction and say, I wish that that person's life could be the slightest bit better. The very slightest 1/1,000,000th of an inch better. I wish them better health, more happiness, a proximity to their spirit, the knowing that there is some sort of infinity that we can all approach. May that person's life become a little more blessed. I wish so. I wish so. I wish so. And how about that person sitting over there? And that one over there? And that one over there? And the man who drives the bus? Yes, them as well. Them as well. I wish. Could I send some particle of energy, some particle of strength? But I can't do anything. Oh, what a waste of time and effort. I can't do anything. Does that individual need to learn that perhaps they can? Yes, you can do something. What does that person need to enter their lives to believe, yes, I can do something? If not for everyone sitting on the bus and everyone walking, at least a little bit. One person, something. They don't know if they can or that they can. But perhaps if the universe smiles upon them, they can come to believe that they can. And then the next page reads that if you believe you can, and you don't, that is sin. That is crime. Yes, you could have done something, but you didn't care to, you didn't want to. Your mind was busy on yesterday or tomorrow or this or that. And this other living thing was sitting there or walking there hungry and starving for a bit of sunshine, a drop of rain. And you walk past them and don't hear their plea or imagine their plea. That is sin. Now, if you don't believe or you don't care to present this gesture to another living person, dare we suppose that that person will do it for themselves? If you will not give a gesture to a spirit of another, perhaps you won't give it to yourself. And if the invisible had arranged things this way, perhaps intending you must give it to yourself, you must practice, you must learn to, because if you don't, you won't have it. You won't give it to yourself. And perhaps you need it more than the person you're looking at. Some say that idea of giving, that idea of constantly remembering another, begins to give life, birth, and growth to that flower which is within. Does that mean that to give service to ourselves, we must learn to give service to others? So that in turn, the giving to your other and the receiving for yourself is a mirror of light. That perhaps somewhere an individual looks outside themselves and may be heard to say, "Please, please, teach me how to love." Because unless I learn to have some form of love for the other spirits that populate this world, I will never be capable of loving myself. Until I can love myself, I will not be really able to love anyone else. I can go through the motions, I can watch all the motion pictures, know the things to say. But will I have the capacity to love another living creature? My old teacher used to say, Start with a plant. No, you're not ready for a pet yet. Start with a plant. So then the work of the fourth way tells us that our endeavors are to create within ourselves a vital, caring human being. And that can be quite a job. The Buddha speaks of illusion. The wise men speak of folly, the self-deceit that are blinders over the eyes of reality, that we may continue to deceive ourselves, to continue to believe that we are what we are not, that perhaps one day we could be. But the deceit tells us, no, we already are. Are those the seven veils they speak of? In some quarters, the teaching is that we are born with a soul, and it's our effort in this life to nurture that soul. To nurture that soul. Those teachings, to me, seem so kind. Because the fourth way states that I am not born with a soul. I am born with the materials for creating a soul. And that will take much, much work, much honesty, much love of the real self, love of the universe, and love of others. And then, with a lot of work and a lot of good fortune, a person can develop a soul. And with continued effort, bring that soul to fruition. And some say that is the most difficult road that a person can walk. To become within themselves the harbingers of magic, the wonderful, indescribable, and infinite workings of that which is beyond our comprehension. How much to do? How much to do? Difficult? Yes. Difficulty in terms of honesty, difficulty in terms of awareness of self. Self-awareness. I've heard that before. Well, I'm self-aware. I went to the movies this afternoon. I can't remember that clearly what I saw, but I was there. Yet in work, we spell that self with a capital S. Aware that within us there is and can be a self. A real self, whether it's beginning to blossom or it's halfway there, or very much there. That it is the concept of being continuously aware of the workings of that self within us. Was the word we just spoke a word of selfishness? Was a desire that we felt unkind to someone else? What are we doing and what are we thinking, and to what level of honesty are we living our lives? How we can deceive ourselves. I certainly have. Oh yes, this is just what that person really needed. This is exactly what they deserved. I had it. Naturally I deserve that. Those are the same as the Bardo states we started. Those states of self-illusion, self-deception. So at that part in us which is petty and ignorant and small and selfish. So that that part can continue to blossom and live. That part which does not really know how to care. That part which may say the words, but doesn't really know to mean, I love you. That is the work. That is the work that I'm fortunate enough to present. The looking, the thinking, the knowing of what is going on in ourselves and what are we doing with these few moments of life that we have. We have only one great enemy. That is time. Time, limited time. This week, Luigi ran out of his time on earth. He can do no more in this vein. In another, I don't know, but not in this one. That is our common enemy. Tomorrow is not promised to anyone. For some there will be a tomorrow, and for some there won't be. Upon the nature and state of this being within us will depend the state and being of our next life, for those who believe in another life. As what a person does today will reflect upon their circumstances tomorrow, so will what a person does in this life reflect the beginning of their other life. Will we walk into another life burdened by what we could not accomplish this life? Burdened by our errors, burdened by our lack of caring, I think that's in some part what work is. And so little time to do it. And the rewards of doing this is to get up at the beginning of a day, and the first thing that comes to mind is how very, very fortunate I am to have another day of life. How fortunate I am to have all the things and all the love and the circumstances and everything that is granted to me. To be able to perhaps, for the first time in our lives, say, life is wonderful and beautiful. As Zarathustra said, if that is life, then once again, because the man sitting here promises, assures, from my own experience, life is marvelous. It is wonderful. It's beautiful. At 2 o'clock we have an exercise appropriately called the 2 o'clock exercise, in which everyone that's working says, I am alive. I want to live. And many, including myself, did not believe it for many, many years. I am alive. I want to live. But when the person begins to, for the first time perhaps, sing from the inside of themselves, I want to live forever. I must thank the invisible for giving me all the things I have. I must thank the departed a lot, because they loved me and they gave me friendship. And they supported me in this realm. Basically, when I was on both knees and one elbow, it was the love of people, the love of work, the love of my teacher, the love of the people who believed me. That is the love that we must experience if we're going to one day say, life is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And that is perhaps the finest gift that one can give somebody. May your life become blessed. That's what we give to the man in the subway or the woman on the bus. What is our range of doing this? 5 feet? 20 feet? 2,000 feet? A city? A world? We don't live on a large, large, vast planet. This is a small planet. It's a small planet. It needs our love. It needs our respect. It needs our good wishes. Well, little planet on which I was born, which I stand, I care for you, I love you. It needs it so desperately. And all the creatures walking on it need it so desperately. And if I may say in my teaching, love is not an emotional state. I love you, I love this, I love that. It doesn't come from the emotional center. It comes from a sense of doing an action, a thought. Doing something that somebody else may say, gee, he loves that person. That's what the work is, as I understand it. There's the magic. The people that were. The circumstances that were. The world of the invisible around us. The world of intent. The world of promise. The world of honor. And time is so limited. People were having lunch, and a tidal wave came and killed them all. We have moments, and what we call work is to grant us the capacity of clutching these moments and bringing them close and asking of the moment, help me to become that which I was born with the possibility of becoming. Help me to live, because I need all the help that I can possibly get. Please feel free to share whatever you can. I thank you for listening. Thank you.
I was just thinking about the nature of time in working versus the nature of time in ordinary life, and how long it takes to create something of value. It can take a number of years. One can, an idea I often mention of conserving energy so that that energy can be used for a very fine piece of service. And I just came to mind a rainbow code that we make revolve. I can't explain in words what that exactly means to the other people present, but that it had extraordinary meaning. And there are things created in the invisible world which I haven't thought of that code in many years. But all these creations exist. And I believe that they are used in ways in our future or in our past that we don't know exactly how. We know some part of it. And all the tapes that we made of dialogues with wolves, and the time that I went to Egypt and came back and we did a piece of work of remembering what happened, and this great wind came up and surrounded the building. That we have thousands of impressions that we created. And I give you the energy of those creations as a gesture for your birthday.
I turned 80 for those who don't have their calculators with them.
collective energy allows for these creations.
I think it's important for us to believe that the invisible loves us. That the invisible also needs. It's on a different wavelength than man. But that the invisible needs. How many of us say 1,000 times, I wish I had this, God send me a new car, God get me out of my job, gimme of some kind. And how often do we turn around and say, God, is there anything I can do to help you? Good days, good writings. Thank you, Pam.
What do you think the invisible needs or wants?
I can't imagine. I can't imagine. But whatever we imagine, I guess that's as close as we can come. Perhaps the idea helps a lot. They say that the invisible perhaps has made man in its own image. Can I do something to reflect a better image? Now we're asking questions that may have an answer, famous Latin philosopher had said that the mind of man is incapable of understanding the depth of the invisible. Incapable. But our trying is perhaps the most we can give. If perhaps nothing more than I don't want forever to look upon the invisible to help me achieve what I want. Is there something that I can do more than just ask? And that may perhaps remind me how little I know how to give.
The vastness of the universe is so large,
and an individual person is so small that the most any one person can hope for is to grasp a little piece of the puzzle. And that's why we all need each other.
Goes through my mind. I'm here tonight because I need to be. This is where I belong. That the events in my life are exactly what should be happening to me. Little by little, I find myself losing the arrogance of looking up and saying, I don't like what is being done to me. Whatever you is out there, I could do a better job. I know what's better for me. And piece by piece, that's becoming undone. And I admit the idea that what's happening is exactly what should be happening for me. I must either learn from a moment or learn to have my wishes cast aside, or learn patience, or learn that I'm not in charge of anything. What I can do is how do I evaluate, look upon, accept what's happening in the world around me. If this is what's happening to me, is it true that I don't have a choice on whether it happens or not? But I do have a choice as to the degree with which I accept it.
Two things came to my mind as Gil was speaking. One was regarding time and being our biggest enemy. And I guess it was just what came to him was that it's not time that is the biggest enemy, but the illusion of time that is our biggest enemy. And that it's later, it went further in the head, the thought that that sort of we created time to have more space to run away from what it is that we need to do. So in the vastness of the space of time, we created tomorrow, so we can postpone everything that we have to do right now. So like the present, basically, we created a future and we created a past, and now there's like all this space to get lost in and to forget what it is that we need to remember. And the other thing was about love and loving another and loving oneself, and somehow connecting it to what Sue said and what Gil said about the mirror. And it seems like standing in front of someone else and giving and receiving, and the mirror of light that Gil made reference to, that the giving to that reflection of me, which is the other, from recognizing that the other is a reflection of me, some kind of a mirror reflection of me, and recognizing that, giving to that which is me, is giving to myself. And so in doing that, I instantly am receiving, because I'm literally giving to myself. And that recognition of, like what Sue was talking about, we're all here. I'm not alone. I'm surrounded with myself and with reflections of myself. And in remembering that, there is no. I mean, there's. It feels. It is full of love. It's not alone at all. And yes, it's huge and vast. And at the same time, though, it's full of me. Of whatever I am, I'm surrounded by that in different shapes and forms. So it's not scary at all.
Maybe it's just life.
This person, when excuse me, thinking about time, sometimes reflects on a science fiction novel this person had read, where people go and colonize Mars. And in doing so, they figure out how to extend their lives like 2-3 times. And so people are able to go through whole careers, relationships, without thinking that their time will end sooner than later. This person often wonders what that would be like, and how that would alter the decisions that one would make if one could do something 10, 20 years, many, many times, or take more chances, instead of thinking that, time's going to end, say, a century or who knows when. And this person grapples with that idea. And this person was touched by the concept from the Tibetan Book of the Dead about when one leaves, like, what is one grasping towards? What is one trying to hold on to? And what does that prevent one from doing? And in doing the work now, this person had read that letting go of most everything allows one into a window of ultimate freedom by letting go of one's career, relationships, what one holds on to, and not divorcing completely the aims that one has. They still want to pursue a goal of reaching a certain level of professionalism or reaching connectedness, a certain level of connectedness with friends, but letting go the substance that's there, that this is part of who this person is, the material of this person, the career, the wants, and severing that completely, this person finds that this person is grasping less and is able to open more to not wanting anything. And it does give a feeling of freedom and a bigger capacity of what the invisible world is and what it means. And it comes in glimpses and in small doses that allowing one not to be attached to anything opens up doors to many other things. And this person works about 30 blocks from here and often walks here. And today was trying to get into the mind frame of this meeting and just thought, well, what's really important? What's really important is investing in this soul, in this person, and developing that. And for a few moments, had a few flickerings of a vision where it seemed like the buildings and everything around were slightly transparent for a second, or just for a moment. And it made this person think, well, what if none of this was here? The buildings, the subway, everything. Would this person still be okay? And by letting go of everything this person thinks has an attachment of, would this person be free or be able to operate wherever this person was, no matter what the construct? And it was a feeling that this person thought, well, possibly that by all the investment of the work and opening up to a deeper capacity of love instead of grasping onto things, that would be possible. And so hearing that idea of grasping onto things is like sort of letting go of the clutch and the grasp onto things. It seems that that philosophy could work in this world and as well as other worlds too.
Thank you, thank you. The image I got when you spoke was that in the grasping of something is where I become prisoner of that which I've grasped. If I retract my grasp and just look and exchange, then I'm no longer a prisoner. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the chair for bringing our attention to the issue of service and how that is really something that none of our personalities is really interested in investing in, and how just the emphasis on service transforms this work from a very theoretical way of looking at ourselves and the world around to developing awareness of our ability to act, and gives us an opportunity to practice acting with intention, and without the constraints of the grabbing onto things and the wanting of things, and really gives meaning to our lives in a way that is, as well as experience, very transformative. So thank you.
You're talking about remembering that part of ourselves which is wonderful, which is magical, which is the reflection of the infinite in which we may have been created. And if that spark, if that small wonderfulness exists in us, it may very well exist in others that we don't notice and that they don't notice. But man has the capacity, and far too often is a very, very wonderful, wonderful creature. He deserves to be loved. Thank you. Yes.
The difficult part of the service is not being able to see the outcome in many cases, and coming to grips or accepting that what you're doing, you will not see the good when you give that person on the bus that extra thing, is sometimes the hardest part.
Giving anonymously?
Not seeing the result.
Yes. I'll be good to you if you tell me that I have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's
Is there anything that may witness this act of kindness that you performed?
You should within yourself.
Should have been yourself. Some say that there is something greater than the self who witnesses our moments. So perhaps in the annals of man, your moment is recorded and noticed. And that person should go home at the end of the day and say, I had a slightly better day than I usually do. They thank you without you knowing it. When you can believe that you know that you performed an act of service, that is your reward. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Are you a musician or a poet or a...
And yes. And yes.
And yes, too. Oh,
Yeah.
multiple personalities.
Yeah.
I've heard about that.
Fair statement. I'm glad to be here.
You're welcome. The door is open the second Thursday of every month.
Well, I think that's very significant, though, what Mike is saying, because we're very result-oriented. And that also implies how our focus is exteriorly dominated from exterior stimulus. And that's to me, that's a very deep conditioning. I mean, it's happened from the beginning as a child, you do X, you get Y. I think that unconsciously that's our conditioning and our modus operandi. And I know Gurdjieff certainly talks about being asleep, and I think that may have a lot to do with our being asleep, because it means we're only focusing at certain moments on a result due to an intention of getting something coming this direction. And what you were talking about before is a real shift, and rather than what can God give me, that implies I've got to be looking out. I'm not concerned with what's coming this direction. And I know that's serious work that is of great concern for this person.
Fortunate you are that it is. And were you the little boy who wanted to be better than the other little boys? Get a better grade, win, compete? Weren't we all?
I do think there's a difference between men and women in this case, though, I have to say, because I think this is more of a generally male behavior. I think I don't know if women agree with me, but I've certainly been the opposite, and too much of the opposite. Giving and caring as a completely natural. I think it is natural for many women. We are mothers, and we are taking care of others all the time. And sort of I find myself doing that service without even noticing it. I mean, I'm not going so far as to try to find a result. I just do it without even absent-mindedly. I mean, I'm holding up a door for someone, coming with a carriage. I do it without even noticing what I'm doing, because it's my nature. And I think it has a lot to do with being a woman. You're taking care of children. You take care of your children. You're half asleep, or you're sleep deprived for several years, and you do that. So And I think that part of my problem is I've been doing it too much. You know, that can be such a problem too. Actually, it can cause, you know, where you don't do enough of being in the world in the way you are. So. Yeah.
I was thinking about Luigi. I did not meet Luigi here. I met Luigi outside of here. I met him twice. And it reminds me of what you were saying as far as why are we here? Why was Luigi here? And why is he not? And it's a difficult thing for me, and I'm sure with a number of us who knew him, who knew other people who have died. And I don't know the answer, but it's really a big question, especially now that we knew him. He's not here. What to think and why. And I don't know how much. I know he worked quite a bit and was, I guess, powerful in his own way. And the question is, well, why? I know there's no answer. It's really, I guess, giving to the invisible and hoping that in the end of the day it's enough of something, but I don't know what that is. I'm not sure we know what that is. But I guess that's all that we have.
And another question that you just brought up. If you have an idea of what you're here for, are you doing it? That's a great question that I ask myself and those around me. I cannot define God. I cannot define those things beyond my intelligence. But as Dushan knows, if you believe that God is the doorknob, then for you, God is the doorknob. I'm not supposed to understand why. But I can ask a simple question. What's the relationship between you and the doorknob? Have you promised anything to the doorknob? And are you doing it or not doing it? It doesn't matter so much what we believe. Are we doing what we believe? That's the great deception. That's the blinder over the eyes. Yes, I'm doing what I believe. Then if you examine and ask yourself, perhaps you're not. You think you're doing what you believe. How blessed are those who are able to say at the end of the day, I did the things I think I should have done.
To make a comment about what was said about being of service. My understanding is that differently from doing what most of us will call it the right thing, being of service requires not taking any pride in what we do, not looking for results, not necessarily doing it as a habitual thing that we've been doing mechanically all our lives, but doing what is needed or what is required of us to do, mostly when it's not suitable to us to do it, when it requires an effort, when it requires going against our nature, whatever is habitual to us. And if someone is being conditioned to be competitive. For that person, being of service will require particular intention behind those actions, perhaps going against this nature of being competitive. And for that person that does not feel competitive, it might be something very different. But I think what makes the difference is the amount of effort that we have to put in order to overcome our conditioning, our belief system based on personality and personal gains and interest and self-love.
Did that kind woman who held the door open for me, did she do it out of habit? Or did she do it because she looked at me and saw that I needed help?
Well, I think I have to answer that, because I think that this woman does it both looking at you and seeing that you need help, because she's so used to doing that. So I think it's double.
Thank goodness.
For me, it's a complicated issue, because it's both good and bad. Because I have to both do what John is saying, going against my nature, because there's something destructive in it too. There's a good part. There's something very good in it. But there's also something that's not good. And that part I should work against my own nature to a certain extent, just like you were talking about. Like most male people need to do what I'm doing too much of. I think, as a general rule. But then for each individual, it's what we have to work with is individual. I mean, it's tailor-made to for us. But
You enjoy working.
Yeah. I've enjoyed it for many years.
I think whether it's male or female or whatever in between, it's just a matter of not making an effort not to do what's habitual.
Yeah, absolutely.
Making an effort to not do the knee-jerk thing. You know, that this just happens, because I know myself, I tend to respond to people with a sort of a eye for an eye. I have a tendency to respond to people in a sort of eye for eye way. You know, if you're mean to me, then I become not a nice person, unless I'm watching myself, unless I'm really careful. And sometimes my emotions just swamp me, and I don't think. And I'm just I became at that time just sort of a machine. And that's not the George that's helping me invisible very much.
This man would like to comment on how beautiful it was to be again here tonight. This man has missed many months meetings due to business, and it's been wonderful being again here, especially on such a beautiful day when we celebrate Gil's birthday. Thank you also for talking so beautifully about cause and effect, karma. It's very important for this man to be reminded. One thing that came to mind was that the only thing that we can really count on always is change. Yet we fight it all the time. And as an irony, this man, for example, this is something that happened very recently. For years, this man was wishing to get one of his partners out of the partnership. For years. He tried practical methods. He tried esoteric methods. He prayed. He devoted whole yoga classes for the benefit of that person, for him to see the world differently. And at some point, very recently, this man came and stormed into a meeting and insulted all of the others, and this man here included, and in the worst possible way, and declared how he will never again be partners with the rest of us, and stormed out. And as the day progressed, obviously the first mechanical reaction to such an event like this man was the ego arming himself to place all kinds of accusations on that person. Until I realized at some point that this is exactly what I was asking for all these years. I mean, the subtlety of this is that I've been resisting what has been called my life so long. Precisely always having the idea that I know better how my life should be given to me, how my life should go. Yet when I surrender, it goes exactly as it should. And it leaves me in a very, very good place. I cannot remember when I slept this well, like after that day, and woke up refreshed with new energy and new love for that person too. I wish him all the best. Really, really. But not with me. Thank you.
So you're saying that life went well, the plans were good, but the plans were always beyond your capacity to make, except now you accepted the plan better. The boss has been the boss all the time.
Can I ask another, how did you surrender?
Excuse me,
Sorry.
there's no crosstalking.
Oh, sorry.
We make a statement to the
Okay.
community at
Okay.
large.
I was just wondering how
Mhm.
one surrenders, or how Duchamp was surrendering.
Well, 8 years meeting with Gil and coming to meetings every week taught me that I don't really exist that I don't really know anything, that I have to pursue this road until I have better insight. And I have begun to have faith in my life, the way it's been given to me.
The question that was presented is a very good one. Work takes a great, great amount of effort, discipline, and cannot be self-taught. The basic premise. Cannot be self-taught because the individual looks at himself through eyes of deceit. The only way to work is that a person must work in a situation of clarity, must be. It's like trying to observe oneself. It's like a blind man trying to see, cannot see. Must be directed. For people who have worked, We have people here tonight who have worked for over 30 years. It is that kind of work. Really no different than if someone is a musician and practices their entire lives, or someone is a surgeon, or whatever. Work is a very, very difficult, although pleasurable, demanding situation that must be done, or else the results don't come.
I'd just like to speak about I had met Luigi a couple times here and in other meetings, and by no means knew him well, and I'm very sad to hear about his passing tonight. And one of the things that, and I'm rethinking about him really, because I hadn't really thought about that person for many years, is that he seemed to have a love or a lust for life. He very much, one thing now I could look back and he wanted to live and he wanted to live well. And his passing in an accident reminds me of a friend who I knew a little bit more than I knew Luigi, who also was taken in a similar car accident, similarly early. And as Peter was speaking about what do we make of that, I was thinking that at times what helps me is to honor, how do I honor that person, a person who's passed, and especially someone who really had a lust for life. And what helps me is, the way to honor them is to live more fully and to have an equally lust for life myself, which I often forget to do. So people passing seem to remind me about the limited time that there is here. And it inspires me to make more use of that time. And I like this way of honoring someone. This way we honor our forebears, people that came before us to do things that we don't know they even did, serving us anonymously.
The freedoms of mind that we speak of here have been fought for and paid for with lives for centuries untold. Nothing comes for free. Well, perhaps we should cease for a while. We'll meet again next month. People here are always welcome to return. Hope that they do. Always welcome to bring a friend. Always welcome to bring their contribution, to bring their spirit, to bring their caring. Because part of a life of service is to do all we can to bring that other person of where they can find light and where they can find self-realization, which I repeat is so difficult to do that it can't be done alone. At this point we usually have tea and crumpets.
Gonna make we're gonna do one thing different tonight, since we are celebrating a monumental birthday, I'll say.
I'm a monument that had a birthday.
Exactly. This is before we have some refreshments. This is called a communal birthday poem of a sort, written by many in the community. It's titled "To Haiti and Frank." On behalf of countless other souls who also consider themselves blessed to have crossed sacred paths with your son, Gilbert, we would like to express our undying gratitude to you for creating, nurturing, and sending us the boy from the Bronx, the Golden Sax, who has for several decades taught a growing band of beginners how to strike the major and minor notes of real life while singing, to the best of their abilities, the songs of that greatest of voyages. Your son has led us, his band, not through mere words, but by example, showing us what it means and takes to wage a holy war within and without in order to defy gravity's spirit. Embodying the essence of sacrifice, your son, our son, look at you, has fought on the front lines like the most dedicated of Marines, battling for his countrymen's freedom. He's committed his life to illuminating the way while asking for nothing in return, while tipping his hat to no one, while yowzering no boss. And he has sung his own songs to us on many a night, encouraging us not necessarily to follow in his own, sometimes light, sometimes heavy footsteps, but to build on his music and create our own movement. Without a doubt, he's left much sweat behind in order to fulfill his destiny. An equal amount of blood has also been shed. He outran professors and teachers, after all, and colleagues, collected degrees, all for one goal, to continue and deepen his life of service. Know this, Gil never fails to bow to both of you, or honor your memories. We are grateful for him, and please accept our best wishes as we celebrate a being as dear to you as he is to us. A being who constantly tells his kids that they are alive, and to live forever. Thank you both.
Thank you all. Thank you all. I couldn't be saying and thinking what I think had I not received the love of people in this room for many, many, many years. I bless them all. And I also hope fondly so much that Luigi takes his direction where he must. I was very, very fond of him, as I am fond and love everyone I work with. Work cannot be done without a sense of love. It is not just an exchange of words or an interpretation or a psychoanalysis. It's the giving and receiving of the psychic spirit. And once given and received, it is not ungiven or returned. Thank you. Thank you all so much. And now you were speaking of
Thank you.